India and the US are heading towards the most consequential milestone in defense relations between the two countries, with an agreement on the production of a fighter jet engine in India. I'm Saurabh Joshi, you're watching Stratpost Newsreel, and let's find out why this is such a big thing. India has a massive requirement for these GE engines. Three different fighter aircraft being built by India will be powered by the same engine model. The LCA Mark II, the latest version of the single-engine light combat aircraft, the fifth generation advanced medium combat aircraft, and the naval twin-engined deck-based fighter. All three aircraft will be powered by the same GE F414 engine. Now, India plans to build 210 Mark II light combat aircraft, 125 twin-engined advanced medium combat aircraft, and 100 twin-engine deck-based fighters. India's Air Force and Navy will eventually need at least 660 engines for these aircraft, and that's not counting spares. The agreement for the production of these engines in India is expected to be concluded during the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the US, which begins Wednesday. This will come almost 40 years after President Ronald Reagan and Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi agreed on the sale of GE's older F404 engines for the Mark I light combat aircraft in 1985. But the indifferent defense ties between the US and India were only properly reset for the first time after the Cold War with the Indo-US nuclear deal. The first Indian order for Super Hercules tactical airlifters in 2008 was followed by orders for P-8I maritime reconnaissance aircraft, C-17 heavy airlifters, Harpoon anti-ship missiles, M777 artillery, Chinook heavy lift helicopters, Apache attack helicopters, and the MH-60 Romeo naval helicopters. With frequent and large-scale joint exercises, these orders over a period of more than a decade and worth more than $20 billion have exposed the armed forces of the two countries to new capabilities and new ways of doing things. But despite the expansion and transformation of the annual Malabar naval exercises and the establishment of the Quad, not everything has worked out fine. The Defense Trade and Technology Initiative set up by the two countries to collaborate on development and production of defense technologies achieved very little since 2012. A new recognition of the political limits of ties between the two countries is becoming increasingly evident. The US knows India isn't ready for an alliance against China over Taiwan or a stance against Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. This realization is a useful reality check on India-US relations. In the absence of progress to the next level, especially with sobered expectations of a grand Indo-Pacific military alliance to deter China, defense ties between the two countries seem like they've reached a plateau and need a substantial milestone to grow further. And this is where the strongest prospects come in for boosting defense relations between the two countries. India has not yet been able to develop an indigenous engine that is fit for purpose. That's why the domestic production of the GE engine is a priority that's expected to significantly bolster India's aviation and defense industry capabilities. The large number of engines required make the business case much easier for their production in India. And while there might be quibbles over the amount of technology transferred, its absorption will allow India to achieve far greater levels of self-reliance in the local development and manufacture of engine technology. But most importantly, the production of this engine in India will elevate defense relations between the two countries to heights that have never been achieved before. Not even with the nuclear deal, which was more a symbolic turning point that reset relations and opened the door for defense sales to India. The engine deal means that all of India's indigenous future fighter aircraft capability will be powered by a US engine until such time that India develops a viable power plant. This expands the symbiotic understanding between the two countries while accommodating India's concerns about staying outside a military alliance. For India, the engine deal brings industrial capability that removes the headache of having to figure out how India's future fighters will be powered, at least for the time being. For the US, which has never shared this level of technology with any country that is not a military ally, the engine deal moves the two countries much closer and offers a path forward in reducing India's reliance on Russia for defense equipment and industrial capabilities. The F414 also powers other fighter aircraft like the Swedish Saab Gripen, which is on offer to the Indian Air Force, and the Boeing F-18 Super Hornet, which the US has offered the Indian Navy for its requirement of 26 naval fighters. And if selected, it could lead to further cost savings and greater efficiencies. This would have a multiplier effect on the milestone reached with the production of engines in India. But the new fighter of the Indian Navy could be decided by a simple walkover and end up being delayed to the 2030s. Find out why in the next edition of StratPost Newsreel. Thanks for watching.